discuss the categories under which the contract may be described. Categories, various categories, various types of contract will be discussed in this chapter. Number 6, we will discuss the 7 categories of contract and we will discuss the individual contract in 7 ways. Introduction. This chapter is a broad overview of the contract law. Broad overview of the contract law, including the source of law, source of contract law, and the categories of the contract. This chapter provides you with a definition of various contracts and provide you the categories of various contracts. The contract law is a part of our everyday life. Every day, millions of contracts are created and performed by both business people, consumers, individual persons, and the business organizations. This chapter cover the legal requirements for forming and enforceable contract and writing requirements for the valid contract that apply to a certain contract. There are 5 types of contract. That 5 types of contract must be in writing, in written, in order to enforce the contract. Order, not valid contract, voidable contract. And finally, we will use the contract to reduce the legal risk in operating our business or in our daily life or in my workstation. Definition of a contract. The contract law deals with the enforcement of the promise. Enforcement of a promise. Therefore, the contract is divided into 2 very, very important elements, agreements, promise. Mutual promise is an agreement. Mutual promise and the enforceability. Two important concepts for a valid contract. Enforceability and the mutual assent, mutual promises. According to the contract law, contract is defined as a promise or a set of promises. Contract is a set of promises that is enforceable by the law. Is a contract. Therefore, when a set of promises has a status of a contract, a person who is injured by a breach of the contract, the person who is injured by a breach of the contract is referred as a plaintiff in legal terminology. The person injured by a breach of the contract is entitled to call the government, especially the court, call on the government to enforce the breaching party to honor my contract. Breaching party is referred as a defendant in the legal terminology. Injured party is referred as a plaintiff. Contract law is an ancient law, but contract law has evolved, has developed to reflect our social change, our society and economic situation has changed. Therefore, contract has developed, has evolved. Contract law has changed according to the social change. Requirements of a valid contract. Over the years, the contract law developed a number of requirements that a set of promises must meet before they are treated as a valid contract. Normally, the contract is created, is formed through the processing of the following four basic steps. First step, agreement step, processing of mutual agreement. Agreement is a mutual agreement that is reached between two parties. This mutual agreement is accomplished by one party who is making an offer and the other party who is accepting that original offer. Okay? Offer plus acceptance equal agreement, mutual agreement. Second requirement is a consideration. Consideration is a new legal terminology. I think consideration is a very unfamiliar concept with you. Okay? Consideration is defined as something of legal value. Anything of legal value is referred as a consideration. The mutual agreement for a valid contract, the mutual agreement must be supported by an exchange of consideration, by an exchange of something of legal value between the two parties. Third requirements is a legal capacity to contract. Under this concept, only major people can make a valid contract. The minor people who is under the 18 years old do not have a legal capacity to enter into the contract, because the minor people, younger people, do not understand the meaning of contract. The minor people do not understand the effect of the contract. Therefore, the minor people do not have a capacity to make a valid contract. Be careful when contract with the minor people, because minor people has an option to cancel his or her contract at any time based on the capacity to contract requirements. The Prof requirement is a legal purposes. For a valid contract, for creating a valid contract, the mutual agreement, mutual promises must be legal. Illegal promises cannot make a valid contract. For example, Mr. Kim, if you kill my enemy, or if you burn, fire my enemy's houses, then I'll give you $100,000. That agreement is illegal. Therefore, that mutual agreement cannot create or valid contract based on the rules, requirements of a valid contract. Okay, this slide illustrates the contract formation. First, requirement, agreement. Agreement consists of offerors, offerees, acceptance. Second, requirement, consideration. This agreement must be supported by the consideration in order to be a valid contract. Third, requirement is a capacity. The both contracting parties must have a legal capacity to enter into the contract. Minor people do not have a legal capacity to enter into the contract because minor people under age 18 years old cannot understand the meaning of the contract and cannot understand the effect of the contract. Fourth, requirements is the legality. This agreement must be for legal purposes. Illegal purposes cannot create the valid contract. Okay. After these four requirements are fulfilled, then the valid contract is created. Contract is meaning that the government has the power to enforce this contract. Okay? After creating a valid contract, the boards, the contracting party has a legal duty to perform this agreement. Okay, next topic is sources of contract law. The contract law comes from either state, common law, or state statutory law. What is the state common law? What is the state common law? The appellate court such as the Supreme Court and Appeal Court, the judges, a decision is referred as a common law because appellate court judges' decision become more law, common law. Okay? State common law include the contract for other than goods or the products. And state common law include the contract for services and include the contract for real estate, such as the legal service, contract for legal services, contract for accounting services, engineering services, and contract for buying and selling the houses is a state common law. State statutory law includes the uniform. Example of state statutory law are uniform, commercial code, UCC. UCC stands for Uniform Commercial Code. And state statutory law include bankruptcy code, statutory law include the uniform contract code, include uniform toll law, uniform commercial code covers the goods, contract for goods, and contract for products. And UCC covers the lease of equipment. Contract law, be better as a part of common law. Okay. Next topic. Contract. Classifications. Contract. Classifications. The categories of the contract. First, written contract versus oral contract. While most word contract is used to describe written documents, but many contracts are not in writing, and those unwritten contracts are yet enforceable in some situations. Any agreement, whether it is this agreement is oral or written, this agreement may result in a binding contract, enforceable contract, so long as it meets the certain requirements. These certain requirements will be discussed in the subsequent slide. Okay, next, paragraphs of the contract is a bilateral contract versus unilateral contract. Bilateral contract involves two promises and two performances. Bilateral contract is an exchange of two promises and exchange of two performances. However, unilateral contract is an exchange of one party's promises and the other party's performances. One party's promises and the other party's action. One party's promises plus the other party's action before unilateral contract. Unilateral contract involves one party's one promises followed by the other party's one performances, one action. Then the promisor must pay the legal value for the other party's performances. Okay? Normally, a contracting party might want the performances. One party sometimes wants the somebody's action instead of promises. In that cases, some people, the other party has a duty to act, to perform if contract is formed by the performance. There is no written contract between the purchasers, customers, and the market. But a valid contract between the customer and the market can be implied from the contract law that is another example of implied contract. You go to the restaurant and have a hamburger. It is your action is an implied contract. You must pay the food fee under the implied contract concept. Okay? Okay. Another categories of the contract is a non-contract obligations. There are some situations and circumstances that the law imposes the obligations even in the absence of mutual agreement, mutual written agreements, and in the absence of the exchange of legal value. In that cases, in these situations, the court, the judge, then applies quasi-contract theory and promissory estoppel doctrine. Quasi-contract is enforceable. Here, one party suffers damages, the losses, as a result of another party's unjust enrichment. The quasi-contract theory and promissory estoppel doctrine will be discussed in the subsequent slide. Okay. Quasi or quasi-contract theory. Quasi means implied in law or constructive. Quasi or quasi-contract is a non-contract obligation that is imposed by the court, by the judge, to prevent one party's unjust enrichment and to ensure the fairness and ensure the justice in certain circumstances. The judge implies the promise to pay to prevent inequity and to prevent one party's unjust enrichment. Next, quasi-contract remedies. The plaintiff, the damaged party, recover, compensate either the reasonable value, reasonable price of the benefit. The plaintiff can recover his or her reasonable value of the benefit that is conferred on the dependent, or the plaintiff recovers the value of the labor. The value of labor is referred as a quantum value. Quantum value is a legal terminology. Quantum value comes from Latin word. Example of quasi-contract remedies are, example, Mr. King washing the window at Mr. Lee's office. Mr. King actually made a mistake because Mr. King was supposed to think that he washes the window in the next building. But Mr. King washes the long another building's window. Okay. Mr. Park was aware that his window were washed. Mr. Park did not contract with Mr. King to wash the window. Mr. Park aware of this. However, Mr. Park did nothing to stop the Mr. King's wash the window. In that cases, even if there is no contract between Mr. Kim and Mr. Lee, the Mr. Kim is entitled to quasi-contract compensation, recovery, remedies. Again, this is Mr. Park. The court, the judge will award the Mr. King the reasonable value of his service. The judge will award quantum merit to the Mr. King. That is the quasi-contract remedies. Okay, another topic. Quasi-contract theory. Another topic. Promissory estoppel. Promissory estoppel doctrine. Promissory estoppel doctrine is a new knowledge. Promissory estoppel. The court may apply the doctrine of promissory estoppel when one party relies upon another party's promises. I believe your promises and I will act based on your reliable promises. Okay? One party relies upon another party's promise to his or her detriment. Detriment means damage. Okay? That is referred as a detrimental reliance. But there is no contract between promisor and promisee. There is no contract between promisor and promisee. The promissory estoppel doctrine prevents one party, promisor, from withdrawing a promise made to a second party, made to the promisee, if the latter party, the promisee, has reasonably relied on that promise. Example. Promissory estoppel doctrine is a very difficult concept. I will give you an example to understand, to easily understand the difficult promissory estoppel doctrine. Your father, example of promissory estoppel. Your father promised, oh, my son, my daughter, or my daughter, if you get a license, a CPA license, or a legal license after the business school or law school, and open a CPA firm, in that cases, I will pay you the 5 years. I have enough money. I'm a rich people. I'm rich parents. So I give you the 5 years office rental fee, and I will give you one year's salary, employee salary of your CPA firm. The son or daughter, a child, get a CPA license after the business school, graduating from business school, and open the luxury CPA offices in the downtown. Rent, high price office for 5 years. In the downtown and hire 3 employees based on my father's promise. But my father changed his mind. Oh, my son. I do not want to pay you for 5 years rental fee, office rental fee, and decoration fee, and your employee's salary. Oh, in that case, the son, CPA son, is crazy mind. I left high price, rental office, based on my father's promise. And I bought luxury chair and decorate in high prices. But father crazy me to sue, okay, the son, sue his father in the court. Why? The pleadings with the court, court. In that case, what does it happen? What does it happen? The judge will order the father, oh, you are bad parents, bad father. You must pay your son's 5 years rental fee, your son's employees' salary, your son's decorating fee. If you do not pay all this money, the charity impose or levy your son's damage on your property, okay, based on the promissory estoppel. Okay? Therefore, the promise is very, very important. And me, with other people, you do not guarantee your promise. Your promises can be a valid contract. Okay? Therefore, the promissory estoppel is a non-contract theory of recovery that protects the detriment, reliance. The court will force the promisor to fulfill the promise or pay the compensations. Okay? Promissory estoppel also come from the Latin word estop, means stop. Promissory means promise. You cannot stop your promise. Estop, promissory estoppel doctrine. Okay. Another categories of contract is a valid contract and void contract. Valid contract. Then a contract has the four basic elements of a contract law. It is said to be a valid contract if four elements of a contract are fulfilled. In that cases, a valid contract is created, is formed. Four elements is agreement, mutual agreement, supported by the considerations. Both parties must have a legal capacity to enter into the contract. Fourth requirement is a mutual agreement must be legal. Illegal agreement cannot create the valid contract. Killing other people, is illegal. Buy and selling of marijuana, illegal in some state. Void contract. Void contract has no legal forces. There is no enforceability in the void contract because void contract is not a contract from the beginning. Void contract is a missing on essential four elements. Therefore, it is not a contract from the beginning, from the start. No contract from the start. Example of the void contract is, my friend, please, I have too much anger to some people. Therefore, if you care to some people, I'll give you $100 million. Or if you fire my enemy's houses, I'll give you $100,000. is void contract. It's not a contract from the beginning because that agreement is illegal purposes. That agreement has illegal purposes. Okay? Void contract is not a contract from the beginning, however. Next categories of a contract is a voidable contract and enforceable contract. Void contract is not a contract from the beginning. However, voidable contract can be voided in the future. Void contract is not a contract from the beginning. However, voidable contract will be a void in the future. Future and the beginning. Difference. The difference between the void contract and voidable contract is that a void contract is not a contract from the beginning. Voidable contract is the voidable in the future. Okay? Voidable contract. At the creation of the contract is a valid contract. However, it could be void in the future. Voidable contract provide the options. The option to rescind. Rescind means the cancel or void. Okay? Voidable contract provide the option to rescind by either party. Therefore, one party may, at his option, either disaffirm the contract, cancel the contract, void the contract, or enforce the contract. One party has an option. Option means right, legal right, not duty. Option is a right, not duty. Example of voidable contract. The retail businessman bought a lot of merchandise from a wholesale businessman. At the time of creation of a contract, the retail businessman told to the retail wholesale businessman that if your wholesale merchandise are partially defective or have poor quality, in the cases, I have option to return your wholesale merchandise or wholesale defective products to you, or I cancel your contract, and my option is a voidable contract. Most sale contract are voidable contract because they contain the contingent process. Contingents. If you have an accident, you visit the attorney office and make contingent contract, legal contract. I do not have money. Therefore, if you win my cases, I give you the 40% of my damages to you. This is an example of continuous clauses. The continuous amount cannot exceed the maximum up to 40%. Okay? Continuous, undecided. Unenforceable contract. Another categories of contract is an unenforceable contract. Unenforceable contract is a valid contract. However, this contract can't be enforced in the court of law because the defendant filed the bankruptcy in the bankruptcy court. The defendant, I'm a plaintiff. You are plaintiff, and I am a defendant. You win the cases, and the told me, oh, give me the court fees, the compensations. The case is, oh, I have no money. I have no money to give you any court, the judge's decision. In the cases, the plaintiff cannot enforce